Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you guys are feeling well this morning and having a great start to your weekend. Got you an update weather-wise on what's going to unfold today. The good news is I really have nothing but good news. There's not really any significant severe weather I'm expecting today. The country is in general going to be pretty quiet. There's a couple areas and things we're going to speak on as the monsoon season is really starting for the Southwest, and some severe weather is possible for areas of the South Central U.S. But in general, it literally is going to feel much better. In fact, it probably already does for a large portion of the country, as an upper trough is really influencing the air mass and really changing it, if you will. Switching it from more of a humid air mass to a dry air mass. If you're not feeling it yet this morning, especially the southeast, you will feel it by the time you maybe go outside this evening. Maybe hold off the yard work until maybe later to the latter half of the day. If you're going out and about and just walking to town, it's going to feel much better as a much more dry air mass moves in across most of the eastern U.S. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, kind of like we already did last night, and break down what's going on. If you guys have not subscribed, consider doing that as always. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray over or pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives a lot of other people who watch this video an opportunity to do so too. So we can look out for one another and glorify God doing it. So let's get rocking this morning. Water vapor loop, it tells the story very, very well. Sometimes it doesn't always do the best job of showing what's going on if you're just kind of looking at this and not really understanding things. But the ridge of high pressure has really built. It's a really amplified pattern, meaning there's a lot going on. That's what I mean pretty much when I say that. A ridging of high pressure is really kind of shifted back west. Therefore, it's heating up across really the middle of the country and the plains. And then you got this upper trough that is digging through, and you can see the switching of wind directions in general in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And the more darker colors you see that's moving across eastern areas of the country is really drying out the atmosphere. The areas where you see the white and more whiter colors, that's where more water content is in the atmosphere, more humid air. So this is digging south, therefore you're starting to feel it already. If you're not, in Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, the Ohio Valley points north and northeast, and South Carolina, Georgia, the deep south, Florida, maybe just the panhandle of Florida will see this, the peninsula down to Orlando and Miami. It'll still remain humid. Cold fronts just do not make it down this far south this time of the year. But I can tell you the air mass is going to feel wonderful. If it doesn't already, it's going to feel like that a little bit later. Now it's going to get hot. But you'll notice you'll walk outside and the humidity just will not really be there for a large portion of this part of the country. You see this storm system trying to enter the western U.S., but it's really being kind of bombarded by this ridging of high pressure. Therefore, kind of where you have the jet's digging down here, but it's having to buckle right back north. So therefore, you have a lot of moisture firing up across the southwest. I'll talk about that a little bit. But you're having a lot of moisture return that's going to fire up across areas of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah today. Areas that really need the rain. They're under a drought. Storm Prediction Center, really the only thing to talk about, and we'll talk about it right at the beginning really briefly, is this marginal risk down here. We'll talk about Florida a little bit. Hopefully don't let me forget. But a marginal risk for severe storms in this area of the country today, but they're not going to be very widespread. There's not really a tornado threat with this. Not really. The only real threat is a damaging wind threat, but it's a 5% chance. You're not going to see any huge MCSs, mesoscale convective systems. I mean, it was a pretty nasty line of storms that moved through the last 2 days in areas of the Carolinas, Virginia, and areas of the eastern U.S. in general. A lot of wind damage reports that has happened over the last 48 hours, but much more quiet weather, I think. But like I said, you can't rule out some severe storms across areas of eastern Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, but they'll be very sporadic in nature. Therefore, it's going to be very hard to figure out where they're going to pop up. But anybody that does see a storm, it could be strong to severe. Moving forward here, we'll look in the desert southwest and check it out as we're getting into this afternoon. 1, 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Look at all the moisture that really pops off here, especially Phoenix points points east, really in eastern areas of Arizona and the western half of New Mexico, into the Rockies areas of western Colorado, the western half of Colorado, areas of the eastern areas of Utah. And this is riding almost due north due to the fact that you have a big time jet drop right here that's being kind of buckled up by this ridge of high pressure. Therefore, moisture is developing around this boundary where you have the ridging of high pressure and where you have the big trough, the cold front digging to this part of the country. So why it's been so cool across the western part of the country. So in between these air masses, you have a lot of rain, which is good news. You need the rain out here. Of course, when it happens too much at one time, when you haven't had a lot of rain in a while, the ground has a hard time really holding it, so flooding will be an issue today. That's why if you look at the excessive rainfall outlook for this region of the country right in here of Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and an area of Utah, you have a marginal risk of flash flooding occurring in this area. That means you have at least a 5% chance of flash flooding and guidance occurring in this region. You got to also watch out Florida today. Also, because you have a stalled out front, that's going to be just kind of sagging into the area and then pivoting on out. So you're going to have some moisture firing up here in Florida today. So just watch out if you're vacationing in Disney World, Universal Studios, whatever you may be doing down there. Watch out for some pop-up showers and storms that are going to develop today down there in that region. But at the rain here in the desert Southwest, you know, this is between now and tomorrow morning. Certain areas could see a 1/4 inch to 1 inch of rain. They could, and you know, that's a lot of rain for areas who have not seen rain. So you pick up all this rain in a 24-hour period, that is going to probably have a little bit of a hard time kind of soaking into the ground and things like that. So runoff is going to be a big deal. So you're probably going to have some flash flooding occurring in certain areas, especially areas that, you know, maybe get over 1 inch of rain in 24 hours. That's a lot of rain out there, and you see it. The areas you see in the dark red, that is basically an exceptional drought, the worst you can get. So these areas are in drought conditions, especially in New Mexico. You guys are going to see beneficial rain today to try to knock down the drought level a little bit. But you certainly need it in areas of Utah that might not see it as much. But this rain is much needed, so it's good to see this for sure today, and I think we'll definitely get it. Now, talking about temperatures, it'll warm up, you know, for the deep south. You're thinking, well, you know, how is the air mass any different if it's pushing the mid to upper 90s to near 100 for certain areas? Well, if you're deep in the south along the Gulf Coast, this upper trough won't really influence your weather so much today. The dry air will still be to your north, and while it tries to sink south, therefore areas like Columbia could still get into the low mid 90s today. But you go a little bit further north of Atlanta, Columbia, you get into Nashville, you get into Virginia. These are high temperatures expected today from the HRRR model. Only in the 60s for the big cities along the I-95 corridor and the Northeast. Washington, D.C., maybe only 70s for highs. Virginia, only 70s and 80s. West Virginia, the higher elevations, if you're vacationing in the mountains, it'll be a nice, crisp weekend. It really will. It won't be very hot. It will almost feel like fall, but it won't look like fall because there won't, you know, the trees won't be changed, obviously. But a nice air mass over the entire Ohio Valley, over the Great Lakes region. It's not cold by any means. It's not really cool, but it feels nice. No humidity, and temperatures only in the 70s. But you can see where this boundary is setting up. You can see where the upper trough, the cold front, is really set up here because you still got big heat rising into the upper plains. So in general, the best thing you look at here is these dew points. These are dew points, not temperatures. So you're waking up this morning across the deep south, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, even areas of southern Tennessee, South Carolina, the Carolinas. You're waking up to, it still feels kind of humid out there. It don't feel that bad, but it definitely feels humid. But as you work your way through the morning, through the afternoon hours, look at as these low dew points and this drier air sinks south. So by the time you're going out there and the sun's setting, you're grilling out, hanging out with family on a nice Saturday evening, you're going to notice in areas of most of Georgia, South Carolina, the Carolinas, northern Alabama, all of Tennessee, points north, you're going to notice it feels totally different out there. It really are. It just feels like a totally different air mass. It's going to be nice. Is it going to be cold by any means or crisp? No. Now, it might be when you get a little bit further up in the northeast, but it is going to feel like a breath of fresh air compared to what we have felt with this high humidity. So that's all I got, guys. Y'all have a great Saturday, a great start to your weekend. I'll talk to y'all this evening. God bless.